Well, I'm so glad that we're back together. You and I were doing fine together.
Last time I saw you was here at the film premiere. Those were some of the best shows I've seen up here. It was so much fun. You did all the cool stuff, and you did that whole like it was one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And you, the more you find you guys are just like in a semicircle watching her do that. It's so awesome. Yeah, someone's getting you guys mic'd up.
Hey, I'm Dean Budnick, and this is a Relix conversation with Luther Dickinson and Anders Osborne. Anders and Luther are currently touring together with their new collaborative project, NMO, which pairs Anders with North Mississippi All-Stars. Beyond that, they have a brand new album out called Freedom and Dreams. They've played together quite a bit over the past few years as a member of Phil Lesh's group on a number of occasions. And they also toured together in the Southern Soul Assembly with Mark Broussard and J.J. Grey. Beyond that, Anders has a new album coming out sometime later this year. Luther has a new album with The Word due out in the spring. We will talk about all of that. But starting off, I guess I would be interested to hear from each of you if you could talk about the retrospective musician you've decided to work together on this new album and this tour. I'm curious, what draws Anders, what draws you to Luther? Talk about what he brings to bear.
Friendship, like a really, really close friendship, an artistic, creative friendship, which is really important to me. You know, if I'm going to be on the road and make music and stuff, that you can have that symbiotic relationship where things that I'm saying is going to be understood. And so that's number one. He's a really, really good guitar player, and not in the conventional sense, but in a free form, in a very, he has his own style. There's a lot of character in his guitar playing. He sings with his guitar. He improvises very much on the spot, at the spur of the moment. Doesn't like to repeat, things. And that's something that stimulates me a lot. So if I throw songs his way, something's gonna come back that I would not play. And it's gonna be at the world-class level. So why would you not wanna work with Luther? So that's, these are reasons why I'm with him, But yeah, there's also a friendship that is undeniable, it feels like a brother, so.
Well, in terms of that, when did you first meet? Do you recall that?
It was back in France. No, I'm just, I think it was.
On the bandstand.
It was on the bandstand. I think I reached out. He had played on one of the boats for Jazz Fest, right?
Riverboat.
Riverboat, yeah. And you ran straight from there, and it's like, I don't have an amp, I'm just gonna bring the guitar, and I was playing downtown Tipitinas in the French Quarter for a show. I think this was 2009 or 10, something like that. He runs up, and we count off the song, literally count off the song, no talk, no nothing. Played the whole show, 2.5 hours, and raged. We had a really good time. We blew up amps, we had to switch. I mean, it was like one of those very energetic. And I think from that point on, we knew, okay, let's do some more. So we did a week, a tour in December following that, and same year.
I was a member of his band at that point, It was like, he just said, come on, jump in the van with us and let's go do the Southeast.
Yeah.
And that's literally how it came about, like spontaneously. You're like, okay, I have some time.
Yeah.
Sort of like Eric Clapton on a, Delaney and Bonnie tour, jumping in the van with them.
No, you're talking. That's right.
It was great.
Well, let's talk about the other side of this.
Man, ever since we met that night, it's like our fates have been disjointed, and then as soon as we met, it's like they've been so intertwined because we started working together individually, playing shows, sitting in. He does a great annual Christmas Tipitina's show. He hired me and we'd come down there and do that a couple of years. But then Phil Lesh hired us independently and put us back together again. And I was like, wow. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Neither one of us know these songs. Great. It was funny, I went the night before the first Phil gig, I went down to his room. I was like, hey, man, okay, you know these songs. Can you show me this lick? And Andrew was like, no, man. I don't know him either. I was like, okay, I gotta go.
You ran back to his room. Shit, we gotta write some
Sharpen my
charts.
pencil.
Yeah.
I told Cody the other day, I was like, I really feel like he's our third brother. He's like our older brother. He's like, Andrews was such a wonderful friend and taught me so much about. It's funny being in your early 40s and starting a family, and you have to rethink your career and who you are as a person. And at first you're just like freaking out, and you're like, okay, midlife crisis. Okay, get it under control, But then you start talking to your friends who are more wise, have been through certain things, and for me, Anders and JJ and Mark, the whole SSA group, and for us to get together was really special too, because we were all talking about our careers, our families, our strategies, and learning from each other and laughing at each other, and so it's been a real life experience for me. So, and the art just follows the life, For me, I wanted to do this because I love Andrew's songwriting and his singing, and on the SSA tour, he started becoming more intimate with his repertoire, and I would hear songs that reminded me of the type of music, I think it was a New Orleans thing, that songs from my father's repertoire, and he had feels and he had chord progressions that just warmed my heart, because nobody plays that music to me, to my ears, And ever since our father passed, the music that he taught us to play, that music is gone from this earth. So it's like my father and Anders were old friends back in the 90s. So to bring that together into place, and it's like, oh man, Cody and I know how to play that kind of, I was like, if Cody and I can get together with Anders and play this type of material, I wanted to do like a Southern folk rock thing, that I thought it was like fill a void, like type of music that nobody's really making right now.
In terms of Luther's father, Jim, notable musician and producer, can you talk about, I didn't realize that, can you talk about your relationship with him?
Well, it was, a few brief meetings, and then, but we struck a little bit of a friendship. It started out he was going to produce one of my records, so I think it was 93 or something, or 94 it was. We started talking. He came to my house, and we just hung out for several hours. And then from that point on, we talked a little bit. He didn't end up, producing the record, which regrettably today, it would have been pretty amazing.
He was a noted career ender.
Yeah, but I was looking to end my career.
Yeah, he could have hooked you up.
It could have been great right there. And then we just did.
You're gonna get dropped.
Yeah, I got dropped anyway. I think what we just did was, run into each other in a couple of sessions here and there. And he was just extremely, how do I put it, just wise. Like he would say short sentences that would mean a lot, which is what you're looking for in mentors, people that have seen everything. There are a lot of those old cats, they're still there, and I think that would be my advice to a lot of young musicians. Pay attention to the generation that started this, because they're still here. They're still here.
Well, you're living in a very interesting locale in New Orleans, as opposed to a lot of other places around the country where they still are there. I mean, one can find these tangible connections to the past. Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, I think the way it works in New Orleans, and I think Luther grew up a similar way with his dad in that region, but I'd be 19 years old, I needed somebody to play drums. Somebody says, call Johnny. So you call John Vodakovich, he comes out, plays for $50. And I said, well, I need a bass player on another session. Yeah, George Porter, I think, is in town. So you call, that's how easy it is. So you meet these people under very normal circumstances. They're not unreachable personas. They're people that are active in the music community all the time. And when they show up and play, they're not telling you what's right and wrong. They're just playing right and wrong. So you learn from the playing, you learn from their attitudes, their behavior, their approach to sessions, to gigs, to everything. And I think New Orleans is really good like that. And you pass on traditions. If you play a song the wrong way, they'll go, well, usually you gotta wait another bar right there, hold up, and they'll teach you, not try to cut you down. And you just, the traditions carry on.
I remember, I think it was Eric Krasno was telling me a story once where somebody was looking for a bass player.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get a bass player like George Porter Jr., not realizing that George is still with us and actually, working it pretty hard these days.
That's
and I'm always surprised by that.
No, it's all of that, yeah. Like Kirk Joseph on sousaphone is another one from, the original Dirty Dozen and all that stuff. He got his stuff from his dad, Frogman, which goes back, he played in the, literally the original 30s Dixieland, or they call it traditional jazz. That's where he came from. So he would know those songs. His brother Charles, so that's the tradition. The Andrews brothers, same thing, the Neville brothers. It didn't start just all of a sudden, 1968 with the Meters. It's been carried on, for over 100 years by that point.